In terms of the TMS, there's a few more changes that have happened in the training management system from the point of view of some of the operations manager type features and so on. So we now have some new output fields. So this can be really important for organizations that actually have multiple organizations. So, so for example, I know QA, for example, that on here have, there's other customers that have. A lot of our customers that resell training on our platform use a hierarchy of organizations to separate their customers. So one of the problems you can often have, and this can be really important for customers that maybe do internal billing, so cross-charging for learning, is you get the bill which tells you these people in your organization took the training, these are the courses they took, this is the organization that they were in. Okay, unfortunately, all we sort of told you was the organization they were in. We didn't necessarily tell you what the hierarchy of the organization structure was. So imagine, for example, you've got a parent company, you've then got geographies, you've then got department organizations under that. You might have someone that we tell you is in the HR department. Okay, now because of the way your organization might work, you might need to know, well, is that the HR department in the US? Is it the HR department in Europe for billing? So one of the things with our reporting now is we can also show to you the organization hierarchy in the report. So you actually know where that student, that user sits in your structure. So that can be really useful for those scenarios where you maybe need to do cross-charging or cross-billing as part of it. So we'll see a screenshot of that in a moment. The other thing we've also added, and this is really important for users that maybe integrate their own LMS with our TMS. That's not always a rare occurrence, but it's not the most common scenario. So if I've got my own LMS as a customer, users will log into my LMS and you will have some sort of ID that you use for referencing that user. Okay. When you then connect the user across to our LMS, okay, chances are that user ID is going to change somehow, especially if you're in scenarios where you want to protect personal information, so PII information, and you want to filter that and not send all that data across to us. So one of the problems a lot of customers could have was, how can I reconcile internal user IDs in the customer's LMS with internal user IDs in our LMS? And so we now have new output fields which allow you to display those. Plus we've also got new search fields where you can actually type in, for example, the student external ID, and we will then show you the student that matches that. Okay, so a couple of these, obviously just the new reporting fields for the organization hierarchy. So this is just an example of that. So normally we used to report the student organization, which you can see is that second column, okay? But we didn't have this ability to expose the hierarchy. So actually understanding where lost child happens to be in relation to the rest of the structure of the organization. This is actually just from our internal UAT system. When I took the screenshot, we didn't have it live in production. But just to give you that idea, so you can turn the, so the student organization column always used to be there, but we've got this new student organization hierarchy column. Okay, so that can be really handy for organizations that have got that structure. And then again, as mentioned, obviously the student ID and the email fields for actually linking with those external IDs. So here you can see, for example, in this particular example, the external system, the calling system, uses some sort of GUID ID to actually identify its users. So you can easily either search for those by using the filter boxes at the top, or just display that information. And then of course you can export it into reports and things. So it's really just to make that operations manager task a little bit easier for organizations that work with that. Other updates in the TMS. So one of the things you can do is when you build a class, you can attach files to the class. Okay, we did actually have a limitation on the class files of the file name being 200 characters. Okay, now when we use the attach class files to a class type tool, okay, there was a description box where you could actually type in multiple lines of text to describe what that file was. One of the things we discovered, and we've basically put something into place, is a lot of customers were using the file name to describe the file. Okay, so it might be, for example, this file contains a network map that you will be using during the duration of this particular course, .pdf. Okay, so at which point we were running into a 200 character limit. So a lot of customers asked us if we could increase the length of the file name that we support. So that file name can technically be beyond 2,000 characters now. Okay. The other thing that we've changed in the TMS, and this is one of those classics where nobody would spot this, but it might be worth just mentioning in case, again, someone internally goes, "Oh, that's changed." When you look to the lab, okay, and I haven't got a screenshot of this in a moment. When you look to the lab, okay, there was a page which described the lab, like is it Hyper-V, how much memory does it use, and various bits and pieces. Okay, there's a field on there that said resource units, and this resource units was a number, okay, 50, whatever the figure might be, okay, and that field has now disappeared. The reason that field has disappeared, a long time ago in the historical history of LOD, okay, the way we used to charge for labs was based on this resource units, so it wasn't based on memory. Okay, obviously our charging model changed many years ago, and therefore this is just unused data, so we just cleaned up, got it out of the way. So we actually used to get a lot of support calls, or a few support calls from people going, "What's this resource units field mean?" And ultimately it doesn't mean anything because we don't use it, it's not used by anything. So ultimately that's just gone. So if you've never noticed it, you just won't notice it now. Okay, because it's been removed. So there's no impact really in terms of those sorts of things. Okay. What is important is if you use the TMS for on-demand training, okay, so self-paced learning, those sorts of things, there have been some updates that have actually changed the user experience. Okay. So these are things that obviously are really important to be aware of, because these are the sorts of things that, as soon as you change the color of something for some end users, they're straight on the phone going, "It's changed. Is it the same thing? Is it, have we been hacked?" Whatever it might be. Okay. So we now actually have some a new filters option, so users can actually hide the filtering. We'll see this in a moment. We've got a new status filter for the courses, which has 4 values, so not started, in progress, completed, and any. We've got some new icons, okay, and we also changed the text associated with starting and continuing a course, okay. So if you do the on-demand training, so this is an example of that in terms of these tiles that you get, where people can go in and actually have a look at the course content. Okay, so a few things. First and foremost, the filter list down the left, which you can build for on-demand content, that was always something that was on the screen. Okay, there's now a little filters link at the top. You can see it just circled there. If you click on that, that will make that filter list completely disappear. Okay, so where it says subscriptions and those boxes that are ticked, that can make that disappear. Okay, so you could end up in a situation where a user comes into here and they go, "Well, where's all my tiles gone?" And it's because at some point they clicked the filter link, made the filters disappear, and obviously they can't find their filters, so they can find the right tile. You've then got this new status drop-down box where we've got a status of any, not started, in progress, complete. So that really also ties into the changes on the right-hand side. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice, okay, is we've got these new icons. Okay, so these icons that have been circled, so the green tick, the sort of arrow in a circle, and the sort of sunburst, sort of little sun icon, are all brand new. So the sun icon effectively means not started. Okay, the circle icon with the arrow head, that's an in progress course, and the green tick represents obviously a course that's been completed. So now using that new status field, okay, it would allow a user to actually filter based on the courses that they, you know, I want to find all the courses that I've got in progress, or all the courses that I've not started. Okay, before they couldn't do that. So if they had to go and find, you know, let's say they got like 10 courses given to them and they had to sort of work through those, okay, there was no obvious way for them to work out which ones have they done, which ones have they got in progress, which ones have they not started. Okay, so that filter allows you to do that along with the icon. The other change is actually the button itself. Okay, so this screenshot's not a great screenshot, this particular one, okay, because the button says start. So if you've got a course that's not in progress, okay, so it's either a course you've not started, so it's got the little sort of sun icon, or it's got the green tick because you've done it, you've completed it, but you can do it again if you need to. That button will say start. Okay. However, if you've got courses that are in progress, that button will now say continue. Okay. So that's really the change. In the past, the button always said start. So one of the things that some users would often find frustrating is they would say, well, the button says start, but I've already started it. So I really want to continue where I left off. Okay. So again, the button just reflects the status before, compared to where we were before. So if you do on-demand training, these UI updates can become quite important, because anything that affects the user experience, the user can panic about a little bit. Okay.